I'm good. Alhamdulillah. I love your
Uh,
kufiya and outfit here.
yeah, I
Very
love
nice.
it. Yeah, I saw it, and I love the colors. Switch you really
Oh,
well.
thank you. Yeah, I wanted to be a little different today, a little bit bright. Okay. So I've already started recording
Okay.
because I like when it's just like recording and natural. So we can go ahead and get started with our episode. Thank you for joining us today. So let's start off by you introducing yourself to our listeners.
So, salam everyone. My name is Nour Bouferrache. I'm 21 years old and I'm Algerian, Palestinian by heart. And I'm a law student currently in Oxford, but I grew up my whole life in France.
Cool. So tell us about your hijab story and kind of how it was living in France when you first wore the hijab.
Okay, so I wore the hijab in middle school, actually. And if you don't know, and I think you may know, France, you cannot wear the hijab in until university. You have to take it off. And my mom was like, "Don't put it now because you have to take it off when you go inside." I was like, no, I really want to do, especially I had this like sister circle, and we were talking about how compulsory is the hijab, how is it a big principle in Islam. So I was like, I'm gonna put it in. Allah know the circumstance, Allah know what's in our heart. Even if I'm gonna take it out like in the middle school, it's okay. So I did it the first day of Ramadan because I wanted to really mark the day. It was very important for me. I didn't tell everyone. I just told my mom I'm gonna put it tomorrow, so she will not gonna be surprised. And I put it. Actually, all my friends were happy for me, but I remember the first day when I had to go inside the middle school, of course, they told me you have to take it off. I was like, okay. But I had like a little turban. The first morning was okay. No, like my professor were okay. They didn't tell anything. They didn't tell me to take care of the turban. But when it was the debut, the beginning of the afternoon, someone called me to go to the provisor office. I went to the provisor office and I was like, oh, what did I do? I'm so calm as a student. What's going on? I went there and he said, you have to take this. We have to see your hair. That's yeah. And I had a little like it was a skirt, only like a skirt, and it was blue. And he said, that's too much. And he asked me, did someone told you to put it? Do you have something with Syria? I was like, imagine you're 13 and you're talking about Syria. And I was like, no. Did your dad? My dad doesn't
Mm,
even know that I'm putting the hijab. He's not even here now. Yeah, he was in like a business travel. And I was like, no. And my mom didn't tell me nothing. It's my choice. And he was like, okay, but be careful. And the school, the law, you don't have to put even like a little bandana, you can't. And I'm like, okay, yeah.
mm. You see, that would have been really hard for me. First of all, I'm sorry that you had to go through that at 14. I know you wore the hijab the first day of Ramadan, so I guess this happened during Ramadan.
Yeah.
And being that age, like a young teenager, it's like the last thing you want to do is get in trouble, and then like getting in trouble because of the hijab, because of something so beautiful that you chose to wear, and then getting degraded by adults and principals. So, I mean, it's tough, but it's something that we need to talk about. I think more, especially when it comes to like the personal stories of the hijabi and Muslim women that do experience that. It's talked in the news a lot, it's talked in the government a lot, it's talked in courthouses, but I feel like the one-on-one personal stories of the hijabis experiencing that isn't really talked about that. So let's touch on kind of sort of that history a bit. So we know France came up with like during the early 1900s, 1905, the term secularism,
Yeah,
which in French is called like la cité. What is it?
laïcité, yes, laïcité.
Okay. Um, s- so they came up with like that concept of kind of like separating the church from the state, we call it here, like
Yeah.
from the
Mhm.
religion to like the country, and then just being able to like display your religion in private, so I guess it doesn't affect other religions. I don't know. So, they came up with that. And then when the Islamic scarf, the hijab ban controversy, it started with the three girls in 1989, when they were suspended from school for refusing to remove their headscarves.
Yes.
So I think it's interesting to kind of see how it played out Islamically, secularism, but not seeing how it played out in other religions like
Right.
Christianity,
Mhm.
Judaism. So it's like they were just focused on like this certain one religion of Islam, and then going back to kind of like your story and experiencing that backlash from adults, like you said, the principal was like, um, do you have ties to Syria or something? And then you said your adult professors, the principals, you don't know if they were afraid or just racist. But then you mentioned something that this kind of thing only happened in France. And I guess from the Western perspective, I would think that like it's all of Europe. Like we just see Europe as like very Islamophobic. But you kind of explained to me in our pre-interview that it's really just France. And like when you went to go study in London, you see people wearing the niqab, and it's like I do see that, but also the Prime Minister of England has not
Yeah.
spoken for the Palestinian people. So it's it's just interesting how that kind of plays out. So can you kind of like explain that? And you can mention like your middle school experience in France. Your middle school, your high school experience was in France. The first 2 years of university was in France, but then you moved to London as an
On
exchange,
my third year, yeah.
your third year as an exchange law student. So talk about like the differences of wearing the hijab and being there.
So first, I want to go back to the secularism thing. So as you said, it's like the separation between the state and the church. And especially this principle normally goes only for institution, for like jobs, for something that show that you are from the government. So for example, you cannot be a public professor in a public school wearing the hijab because for them like you're an image of France. But normally in private, like business, startups, coffee shop, like something simple, you can wear the hijab. But because of this law, many like jobs do not accept the hijab because they say, oh, it's like against laicity, it's against secularism, but it's also against freedom of religion. So when I was in middle school, I remember, so on the third year of, no, final year of middle school, you have to do a little internship, and I did it at a pharmacy, and it was a private pharmacy. I was like, oh, I can wear my hijab. No, of course you cannot wear the hijab, and even a bandana also there you cannot. And also, when I came to high school, it was very hard for me because I was like, oh, so everything is closed for me because I wear the hijab here in France. I cannot be a lawyer, I cannot be an attorney because if I want to pass the bar, I have to take off my hijab because you represent France. You can only be like a private lawyer or something like that. And even I wanted like, that I never had a summer job because I always got rejection. Like they accept my CV, and after when I have to go through the interview thing, they be like, "Oh, so please, like we accept you, but you have to take off your hijab." I was like, every interview. And when I came here in England, I was so shocked. I was like, I feel relieved. Like I said, Alhamdulillah, I can live with my hijab. I see like sisters with the niqab. Here you can like be more free with your religion. The fact that we have like prayer room also here in France, we cannot. It's against like laicity again. Um,
That sheet is what I call it. That's what it
and
is.
it is. So, and also, I don't know if you saw also on the news, like every time when a hijabi girl in France have a business, is an influencer, she's always on the news. It's always about women wearing the hijab. It's always us. Like we are the main character of this country. So it's very draining because for our mental health, some like I remember, I think it was when it was the COVID, we had like also another scandal. There's a scandal about hijab like every 5 months.
Talk of the town.
Like every time, and I was like, this is too much. And I'm very happy that I came here for my exchange year. It was like my holiday. I'm here for holiday to because it's too much for the mental health. And there's also like for so as part of this called the hijabus, so it's for uh women in sports, in football, so they can wear the scarf. I don't know if you heard about this. So,
Yeah.
for example, for the Olympics, you cannot wear the hijab for the French team. That's very like funny because other team, how like for example, if there's like a team from the Middle East and they have or Morocco and they have hijabi player, are you gonna tell them also to take off their hijab?
I mean, I know the first hijabi soccer player, she was like in Morocco.
Yeah, she
She was
is.
playing, I think, for the soccer league.
So it's always about the body of the woman and the body of Muslim women, especially in France. But I'm happy that I understood that we have to fight for our rights as hijabi women, and I'm like, I want to represent my people and be like, you can do this, even if they tell you you cannot. You have to prove that you can, and you are more than your hijab. Your hijab is your pride, but you are more than your hijab.
That is true. I mean, like you said, it's very important to remember that about like why you wear the hijab for you, especially when it's put on public display and ridiculed and it's not accepted. It's draining. It's draining to be able to wake up every day knowing that in school as a young teenager, someone is going to come up and be like, "What are you wearing?" It's like the last thing that you want is attention as a student in middle school. So, I mean. I don't really know what to say about it, honestly. I mean, right now you basically ran away to London and you're just like on vacation studying, but like you're gonna end up going back, right?
Yes.
To Paris, France. It's confusing because I know like there are a lot of Muslims in France, right?
Oh, yeah. Like 7% of the population. Even if they think that we are 30% for some races, but we're only 7%.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that runs through my mind with that is just really the government in the country being deep rooted in hijabophobia and Islamophobia. So, I mean, they stay talking about us in the news, but I mean, what can we do? So, kind of through your work in France, studying laws and human rights, in a country that doesn't value your human rights. You worked with organizations like UNICEF and UNESCO about human rights and hijabi rights. Like I mentioned, it's like rooted in Islamophobia. How was kind of like that experience?
So at first I thought that I will not be like I will not have the chance to like go to conference and everything because I was used to every like door closed for me. Especially how I see like all my, especially the first year, I see everyone that have like they have their internship in law offices, but every like lawyer, like not all the lawyer will accept your hijab. So I was like, I will not be an attorney, it's okay. So I've been like engaged with UNICEF since my last year of high school, and I didn't get a single remark about my hijab. The only one that I get is was because it was with a public high school, so I could not like work with them. But when it was with children, with institutions who are like private, so like internationally, it's okay. But when it was with friends, I could not. So I was like, okay, I will not give them my brain. They will not use me, and I will give my like values to to something more um thoughtful for me. That's why when I came to like to university, I uh I became the president of the Arab Student World. And through that, I had many experience, conference, engagement with many institutions as UNESCO. And when I went there, because it's international, I saw some like sisters with the hijab from Mauritania, for Jordan. So I was like, oh, here I can, because when you go through the UNESCO, you're not part of France, actually. You're like from all the world. So your hijab is not a problem. And I was like, oh, so I have to go through this path. I will not work with the government for the government or for France, but I will work internationally to show that my people can, my sister can, and that we are more than what they think that, because they think that we are oppressed. But at the end, uh, when you go to UNESCO, there is many hijabi actually. Maybe not all from France, but you see that every like, for example, I met this like intern. She was, if I remember well, she was French Syrian, and she was like the only internship that accepted me was UNESCO, because it's internationally. So I try through my work and through my studies to show that, and also through social media, that there's many opportunities that you can create by your by yourself, and you don't have to wait for them to open their mind for you to do it, because they will not. And yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that. I was thinking, you know what crossed my mind like while you were talking about that is like looking at these things set into places by institutions of like feeling like you have to fight for your hijabi rights from a country that like bans it. And it's like we spend so much time as Muslim women in those countries trying to find a job, trying to find a career that advocates against that and for our rights. So much time. And it's like, what if we didn't have to do that? And then we could spend our time productively becoming successful people in society, like you actually becoming a lawyer, actually becoming an attorney to helping families and people. It's like these laws really hinder, I think, just Muslim women in business
Mm,
of being able to have the confidence, of being able to have the opportunities. And it's like having to spend my whole life fighting for hijabi rights. I
mm,
will, but like, is that really a life lived? Of like, in any other human being, not just hijabis, if there's like a law against your religion or against you as a human being, I don't think that's a way to live. It's like we never really seen it that way of like the amount of time and effort that it takes, but like looking at it the opposite side of like putting that time in a place productively. So have you kind of came to that roadblock of realizing that?
It's very interesting because I had like a course 2 weeks ago about human rights, and there's like some theory, like different theories, different scholars who say like some of them say that human rights are natural, and other ones say no, human rights for some minorities as us, it's a fight every day. And I was like, yes, it's a fight every day for us. You have to show that you're human at the end. You have to show that you have the same rights as other. Like I went in LinkedIn and I saw this hijabi in France who passed I think it was an exam, and they told her to take off her hijab. So what she did, she complained to the like Supreme Court, public Supreme Court, because we have two different, public and private, and she said she had like to fill a complaint. She had to show all the principle that okay, you talk about secularism, but actually when you go through that, it's against freedom of religion. She won at the end because the Supreme Court say, yeah, it's against freedom of religion, and here she's not the image of France. She's not the image of the government. And when I did this like course, I was like, we have to fight every day, and this is also draining because you have to prove yourself that you're as human as them. And maybe like maybe at first like we all have our pride, right? You all like as you said, I'm gonna I'm gonna fight for my people. I'm gonna fight as a hijabi, but at the end you're tired.
At the end, Muslim women definitely have to go through more hurdles and loopholes than the average human rights activist.
Hmm.
It's that's just a fact. And like you said, it's exhausting and it's like when do we say that I don't want to live to fight? Like I just want to live to live. Have you seen kind of a change or shift when you chose to study in London?
Yes. Um, I had many cultural shock. At
Hmm.
first, when, for example, like first thing, it was the border police. The thing that when she was like, "Darling, how are you?" Blah blah blah, and I was like, "Okay, you
Oh,
call
this is
me
new.
darling." This is new for me. Sometimes I don't even get a bonjour, so
Oh,
the
okay.
fact that he called me darling, and also so my school has like this partnership with a primary school, and they needed a French professor. So they called me, and I was like, "Oh, I'm happy." And I asked them because it's like something that I'm used to. I was like, "Do I have to take off my hijab?" And the professor was like, "What's wrong with you? Like, why do you want to take off your hijab?" I was like, "I don't know. I'm from France." So he said,
Wow.
"Oh, like, you're free.
No,
Just like wear the hijab." I was like, "Oh, thank you." But it's the bare minimum, right? But I'm not
right,
used to that.
right. The abuse that we're used to, the abuse. That's crazy. So so now it's been what, your second year in London? Or it's still your first?
Still my first year. Yeah.
Your first year. And how is it kind of like outside of the institutions, maybe like on the street, just with like
No one
anyone?
cares
On
about
the
me.
bus, public transportation?
No, like I feel like I'm like everyone. No one cares about me.
You
No
feel
one.
normal now.
Yeah, I feel
Welcome
like
to the rest of the
you
world.
being, because
Yeah.
even if like we are a multicultural country in France, especially Paris, like the big city, we are multicultural. But I feel like London is even more multicultural, so they're more
Diverse.
used to it. They
Yeah.
don't care. Like, do what you want.
Yeah. And I mean, there's, like I said, there's always loopholes and hurdles when it comes to Muslim women. I don't know why people are very threatened by us everywhere. But even in London, like now you said, it's very multicultural. We call it just diverse. It's like very
Hmm.
diverse. Um, I'm seeing now people posting online about that. Like, look at what London has become. And it was like this picture of like a large group of people like marching in the streets and they're all wearing like a abaya and a niqab. It was probably, I know it was Photoshop. We all know the propaganda, but it's like, look what you London has come to. Look at what you made it happen. It's like no matter what Muslim women do, it's like
Right?
they'll always find like the ban wasn't enough. It wasn't enough banning my existence. Now
Mhm.
it's like you're blaming me for it's just too much to deal with. So I don't know about that, but that's a conversation for some. other historian specialists, because I'm not the specialist on that. We just provide our mere opinions. Um, but I kind of want to go back on the story. I don't know if it's something that you want to share, but you've mentioned it in our pre-interview. It's about, I think it was in your Catholic middle school,
Mm.
in France, and you went to all was it an all-girls Catholic school?
No, it was mixed.
Okay. Yeah, and then you had the experience with the teacher.
Yeah. So first year of high school was very hard for me because I went from a public middle school to a private high school. So it was very different. I was the only hijab. Even if it was Catholic, I had to take it off. Even if we had the nuns wearing it's okay.
But
So
I'm sorry, but actually, when you told me that in our pre-interview, I recorded because I had so many emotions. I ended up recording a solo episode just based off of what you told me, and I made it into a whole episode. So please proceed. Proceed.
and so there's like this teacher. I think it's a mix between my hijab, the fact that I'm Algerian, and also the fact that I'm from public middle school, like his reaction. So we have like, the general general path, and I don't know if it's the same in the States, and the fact that you have to specialize.
Mhm.
And 2 weeks, it was 2 weeks after the beginning of the year. It was like, Noor, I think you have to go back to a public high school. I was like,
Wait, who said that? Your principal?
the teacher,
Oh, the
my
teacher.
principal teacher, he's like the principal for everything. So
Hmm.
supposedly it's like the academic advisor. You can
Oh,
say
okay, okay.
everything. I didn't tell him anything because it wasn't like nice to me. And the thing that very marked me, and because of that, I had like social phobia the whole first year. So I wasn't there one day, and he asked the class, "Oh, don't you think Noor is not integrated? Don't you think Noor isolate herself?"
Wait, in front of the whole class?
Yeah, and I wasn't there.
Wait, how
Plus,
old were you?
uh-uh,
How old were you?
I was 16.
Okay.
Uh, Plus, he knows that I don't have a single friend. I just had two friends because they were new like me. But the other all know each other since primary school because it's like those private school are like primary, middle, high school, so they all know each other. It was a really toxic circle. Um, and you go and say that in front of everyone when I'm not here. And I didn't had like a single other teacher to talk about. I had to wait until last moment. It was the last days. I went to this like female teacher. She was the only one that I can bear. And I told her I cannot, like, it's too draining for me. I like, you see all my absence, you see that I don't come. I love school, I love history, I love French lessons, but because of what's happening, and it's not that I'm isolating myself, it's just that I don't feel integrate. Um, and I remember I cried in her arms saying that. I was like, I cannot, like, it's too much for me. And but thanks God, after the second year and the third year, COVID came, saved
Yeah.
me. So I didn't had much time, but
Yeah.
I'm still concerned about, is it my hijab? Is it because I come from public high school, public middle school? I don't know. But alhamdulillah, I didn't get him again on the second year and the third year of high school.
That's that's very difficult to experience. I'm sorry that you had to go through that, like at 16. Um, that's very difficult. That's like bullying. And were you wearing the hijab like then, or they made you take it off?
I have to take it out, yeah. And also um so those people who gonna joke, but it's like a humor, but it's not humor for you. We don't all have the same
Right.
humor. And there is this guy, imagine, he was like uh Arab. He was Arab, but you know those Arab that when they are with white people,
They
you're
become
not
whitewashed.
right. And he was like calling me names like terrorist. Um, and he was laughing and he was like, it's just a joke, Noor. It's
Oh
just a
no. Oh
joke.
no. Mm.
I was like, maybe it's a joke for you, but if you say to me every day the same joke, it's not a joke anymore.
Not even that. Like he is an adult professor and you are a 16-year-old student.
Mm,
He's not even allowed to speak to you that way. It's crazy. And it's like not feeling safe enough to go to maybe someone higher because you don't even feel safer there. I don't even know what to say. Well,
But thanks God, like second year last year, I had so this time the professor was nice in high school,
mm,
so I felt more close to him. I had more like um how to say I was more safe to talk. But also here, so you know when you go for like school, you go out for like travel or something. Imagine you have to take off your hijab in the school, but also you have to take care of your hijab in the travel outside.
like the field trip?
Hmm. So I always had my hoodie with me because
Mm.
like a whole day in another city, and also people gonna see you without hijab, but you are hijabi. So, and I still doesn't understand that how you have we have to also take off our hijab also outside.
Well, I think honestly we'll never understand it because it I believe it comes from a place to really just cause division and confusion. They want us to question ourselves. They want us
Mm,
to feel silly. They want us to look dumb. They want us to basically go crazy,
yeah,
like in our identity, in gaslighting and all these tactics that, like we've mentioned before, is they use secularism as an instrument to be
right. Mm.
Islamophobic, to be racist, to be hijabophobic, really just as an excuse because we haven't seen it kind of play out, secularism, um, across all different religions as they claim. We've only really seen it highlighted in the Islamic Muslim community, which also causes um, big question mark of like, okay, what's going on? You know, why does it feel like Muslim women and Muslims are the ones that are mostly being targeted? Why aren't we seeing this happen in other religions? Um, because, you know, it really doesn't make sense. Because like you said, in Catholic schools, all the girls wore the nun
Yeah,
veil.
the nun they were because they are nun they can, yeah.
But that's a religion. Wait, what religion is that? Catholicism,
Yeah,
right?
Catholicism. Or also when like for example putting the how do you say that?
The
The
cross.
the cross.
Yeah, wearing the cross necklace.
Yeah,
I
you
yeah, I've read it online that secularism is like publicly showing your religion, whether that's wearing the nun veil, wearing the big cross necklace, you know, that's a sign of your religion. And then for Muslims, it's the outward sign of the hijab. Do you see people still wearing, like in France, like crosses, or is it really just like in schools or like private institutions that you would see, or public governmental private institutions where you would see other different religions being displayed?
for the necklace crosses, I see it everywhere, but no one say anything. It like I had like this discussion with someone. It was like in a coffee shop, and he was like he was asking, and I was like, oh, so what about the cross? He's like, this is cultural. I was like, no. Or for Christmas, the fact that we have like Christmas tree is also a part of your religion, no? Oh no, this is cultural. This is like culture is part of France, blah blah blah. But it's against the principle that you're talking about.
Well, I mean, I guess we can use that same excuse.
Hmm.
If someone asks you about it, you could say this is cultural. This part
Like
of his,
Abaya, why you say it's religious? It's cultural. It's not religious, Abaya,
yeah,
but it's always Islam.
it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, like I said, thank you for sharing. I mean, that really puts things into perspective. And it's like we see things on the news about France all the time about Muslim women and the hijab laws, but it's like the first time that we're being able to hear from the Muslim women themselves really puts things into perspectives and allows us to see the deep-rooted history and like the story behind it without like the headlines or the propaganda or that. So I think this episode really helped with that, and I think and I hope that it will shed more light on the individual experiences that Muslim women have and their stories and how they relate to the hijab in their environment around them in different countries. Because, like I always say, we each have our own hijab story. Each hijabi has their own hijab story, but every hijab story is different. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful.
Thank you. I hope so if some people have some question, I had like the answers for it, if even if I don't have all the science. But yeah, and I hope things gonna get better for hijabi, not only in France but the whole world. But yeah,
Yeah.
we have to fight for it.
Hmm. That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I hope we come to a point where we don't have to fight for our hijab is really the goal, really what I'm hoping. But thank you so much for joining us today, Noor. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your stories. And yeah, inshallah, I'll talk to you soon.
So thank you.
Great. Bye. Thank you.